Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name's Annette, Sunbeam Fabric Art, and today I'm just making hourglass blocks. This is for my quilted coat project, and I finished 204 in this episode. So come along and I'll show you what I did. I am using charm packs, and they are Blue Escapes by Andover Fabrics. I also added in one charm pack of Wilmingtons in the navy to get enough of the darker fabric. So I divided into lighter and darker fabrics. Then on the wrong side of the lighter fabrics, I went through and did a diagonal line across each square. And I did that to every one of my lighter fabrics. Here you can see my assembly line process. I am drawing a diagonal line on the lighter fabric and pairing that up with a darker fabric from my selections. I did not plan out which lights and darks went together. The only thing I watched for was to make sure I wasn't putting two stripes together or two florals together. The next step is to place two of your squares right sides together. In my case here I have a dark navy and a lighter fabric, and I need to see that diagonal line I drew on the lighter fabric. I'm going to stitch about 1/4 inch away from that line on both sides. As you may know, I am a huge fan of chain piecing. So I went down one side of the diagonal line for every light and dark pair. Next, using the blade saver, I separated those squares, then I sewed them again on the opposite side of that diagonal line, chain piecing, of course. And again using the blade saver to separate these squares. And the next step is we separate the two halves of our block by cutting on the diagonal line. For pressing, it's very important if you're going to go on to make hourglass blocks to definitely press all these half square triangles one way. I am pressing them all to the dark side. Okay, with that done, we can finally talk about putting an hourglass block together. We're going to take two half square triangles that we made from two 5-inch squares. We are going to put these two squares right sides together and make sure our dark sides and our light sides are opposite so we get the beautiful hourglass look that we're wanting. Now, because we have pressed these all to the dark side, the seams are going opposite directions. When you slide the top block over the lower block, you will feel that catching as those seams nest up together. And I simply put a pin right in the middle. The next step, which actually should have gone before the nesting, I should have gone through half my blocks and drawn a line on that wrong side of one of the squares of the pair. So let's take care of that and get that line drawn diagonally across the square. Once you have your pile of pairs, go through and draw a diagonal line on one square of the pair, drawing that diagonal line on the wrong side of the fabric. And here you can see I'm going through my stack of pairs, sliding, nesting, pinning, checking. And I did double check every pin to make sure that those seams were lining up. And now it is simply a matter of sewing 1/4 inch approximately from the line to sew my pairs together. Then I will flip it around and sew on the other side of the line, and that will create my 2 hourglass blocks. Now it's time for my favorite part, which is the chain piecing. So I chain pieced all my pairs together on one side of the line. Then I separated them with the blade saver. Then I sewed the other side of the line. Now we are taking those finished stitched blocks and cutting them apart on that diagonal line that we drew. Next, we're going to press all these hourglass blocks flat. Okay, so trimming this hourglass block is a little bit more complicated than just trimming a half square triangle. We're still going to use this diagonal line. Since I want to trim to 3.5 inches, I need to know what half of 3.5 inches is, which is 1 3/4. So I have to get that center cross stitch line to the 1 3/4 mark on my ruler, so that that stitched seam where it crosses is exactly in the middle of my block. And then we have to make sure that diagonal line lines up with our diagonal seam line too. So here you can see that center seam line where the 2 seams cross is on my 1 3/4 mark, and my diagonal line does match up with my diagonal seam. Here you can see I did trim away the 2 sides with my rotary cutter. I'm going to flip the block around, and now it's a little bit easier because I have a straight edge on the left and the bottom. I still want to get that 1 3/4 mark on that center meeting seam line. And then my left side and my bottom side, where the straight edges are, should be 3.5 inches. And here is the final 3.5 inch trimmed block. Now let's get the rest of these blocks trimmed up. My last round of hourglass resulted in 254 hourglass blocks. This round resulted in 204 hourglass blocks. So I am going to bag them up and put the total count, which is now 458. I believe I still need about 400 more hourglass blocks to get enough fabric to make my quilted coat pattern. Thanks for joining me today to make this cute little hourglass block.